like that. The starships of the future, in other words, the vehicles of the future which will explore the high frontier of the unknown, will be syntactical vehicles. I mean, the engineers of the future will be poets. This is what virtual reality holds out to us, the possibility of walking in to the constructs of the imagination. In a way, culture is that. I mean, our cities, bridges, highways, airliners, and art galleries are condensations out of the imagination, but at tremendous cost, because we must make them out of matter. Once we can make them out of light, out of electrons, then we won't build skyscrapers 120 stories high. We'll build them as high as we want. Roof height will no longer be a factor ruled by cost effectiveness and gravity. It will be a parameter ruled by the imagination, as will all other parameters. And then we will discover what man truly is, when we are able to erect, stabilize, share, and explore our dreams in a kind of virtual hyperspace that, carefully analyzed, is seen to be linguistic. That's what its connectors are made out of. That's what its ferroconcrete and steel is the edifice of language. This is what the stuff of the imagination is made of. And I think this is what we're moving toward. The psychedelic shamans have always known this. Now the psychedelic underground art community points toward this goal and leads the way. Yes, well, this is a segue from yesterday's discussion about visible language. The notion being that, well, let me review what yesterday was about. It was about the idea that if we could see language, if language were a project of understanding that used the eyes for the extraction of meaning rather than the ears, that it would be a kind of telepathy. There would be both a fusion of the observer with the object observed and with the person communicated with. The place in nature where something like this has actually evolved and occurred is in the cephalopods, the squid and the circolittoral octopi. Now these are animals that divided from the human, from the line of development that leads to human beings over 600 million years ago. They're mollusks. They're related to escargot. It's an organism very different from ourselves. Nevertheless, one of the things that evolutionary biologists always talk about is the convergent evolution between the eyes of cephalopods and the eyes of higher mammals. This is because the cephalopods live in an extremely complex visual environment, and in fact they have evolved a form of communication that approximates this visible language that I'm talking about, because these octopi have chromatophores all over the exterior of their bodies. Chromatophores are cells that can change color. Now, many people know that octopi can change color, but they think it's for camouflage, for blending in with the environment. This is not at all the case. The reason octopi change colors in a very large repertoire of stripes, dots, blushes, traveling shades, and tonal shifts, is because this is for them a channel of linguistic communication. In other words, they don't transduce their linguistic intentionality into small mouth noises like we do, small mouth noises which then move as sound across space in the form of vibrations of the air. Rather, they actually change their appearance in accordance with their linguistic intent. What this boils down to is they physically become their meaning. And one octopus observing another is watching the unfolding of internalized neurological states within the organism being reflected in color changes on the surface of the skin. Now, these octopi not only can change their color, because they're soft-bodied creatures, they can also change the texture of their surface from smooth to rugose and folded. They can also, because they are soft-bodied, fold and unfold and reveal and conceal very rapidly different parts of their body. So they're capable of a visual dance of communication that is an extremely dense kind of visual signal. And in the so-called benthic octopi, the species that have evolved in very deep water where very little light reaches, they have evolved light-emitting phosphorescent organs, some of them with membranes like eyelids over them, so that even in the darkness of the abyssal depths of the ocean, they can carry out this dance of light, self-enfoldment, color change, and surface texture that is their linguistic style. In fact, the only way an octopus can experience a private thought is to release a cloud of ink into the water into which it can retreat briefly and hide its mental nakedness from its followers. This kind of biologically intrinsic wiring into the potential of language is something that we may be able to mimic and achieve using psychedelic drugs as the inspiration for the directions given to a virtual reality development program. In other words, we might be able to create kinds of visibly beheld syntax that would be the human equivalent of the dance of light, texture, and positioning that constitutes the grammar and syntax of squids and octopi.
Yes, that's right, because operationally what these psychedelics do is they dissolve cultural conditioning. Cultural conditioning is like software, but beneath the software is the hardware of brain and organism. And by dissolving the cultural conditioning to speak English, German, Swahili, or whatever, then one returns to this Ursprach, this primal language of the animal body, and can explore the real dimension of feeling that culture has a tendency to cut us off from. Culture replaces authentic feeling with words. As an example of this, imagine an infant lying in its cradle and the window is open, and into the room comes something marvelous, mysterious, glittering, shedding light of many colors, movement, sound, a transformative cacophony of integrated perception, and the child is enthralled. And then the mother comes into the room and she says to the child, "That's a bird, baby, that's a bird." Instantly, the complex wave of the angel, peacock, iridescent, transformative mystery is collapsed into the word. All mystery is gone. The child learns this is a bird. about this is a bird. And by the time we're 5 or 6 years old, all the mystery of reality has been carefully tiled over with words. This is a bird, this is a house, this is the sky, and we seal ourselves within a linguistic shell of disempowered perception. And what the psychedelics do is they burst apart this cultural envelope of confinement and return us really to the legacy and birthright of the organism.
Ningol begagan kek kway kway patapahakwagang e dolgimi kulkwe papahakanta. Esto chitable idum wipul kek tak sitipitin. Itit nchikwan po hakak lungur. E vundu iti itu uwaksa pamapango tech ni goto deva hoichpul. That's it. I'm out of here.